What's going on, guys? This is Rob. If you guys enjoy my content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that little bell so you never miss out on my sexy voice. Since the dawn of modern man, we have continually suffered an existential crisis. Questions like, why are we here? And where did we come from? Reside in the back of our minds. Some find answers in the belief of a God up there listening. Others turn to science and technology. But for mutants, the answer can be found in history. In the early days of Earth, and approximately some 1 billion years ago, there was Sublime and Archaea. Coming into existence through the evolutionary process, these perfect twins were the first biological organisms, but were also locked into battle and governed by three imperatives: replicate, dominate, and survive. To ensure his survival, Sublime banished his sister to the cosmos, and there she remained, where she was forgotten by everyone. Back on Earth, Sublime inherited this new world and watched as it began to take form. Watched as mountains rose and sea levels dropped, as the Elder Gods waged war among themselves and were in turn destroyed by Demogorge. As this ebb and flow of life continued for the next 500 million years, Sublime was present when single-cell life forms became multi-cell life forms and eventually gave way to animals and man. Learning of his ability to jump from one organism to the next and possess their bodies, the world had become Sublime's oyster, giving him the ability to sow conflict and reap war across the planet. Continuing in this manner, Sublime bore witness as the Celestials arrived on Earth 1 million years ago, as part of their continued grand experiment through the cosmos. Met by Gaia following their war with the Serpent Men, a nomadic tribe known as the Wanderers stood as the missing link between ape and modern man. Beseeching the tribe to accept the gifts of the Celestials, this act by Gaia was a byproduct of necessity. With the initial war of the Elder Gods having long since passed, the Elder God Set was one of the few who managed to escape to a pocket dimension and his own certain death. Seeking to continually enter into the earthly dimension in an effort to retake the planet for himself but being continually defeated by Demogorge, Gaia knew that a time would come when Set would rise to a level of power beyond that of the Godslayer. Seeking to ensure Earth's continued protection, the arrival of the Celestials was fortuitous in that it would allow for them to modify the genes of man and give rise to powers of extraordinary levels. Finding themselves split into three groups, and after several weeks of experimentation, the first had their genes modified to an unstable state by Xeron the Tester and went forward as the Deviants. This second group was hyper-evolved by Nazar the Calculator and took on the appearance of modern man, after which they were imbued with cosmic energies and went forward as the Eternals. Finally, the third group was given a latent gene by Oneg the Prober, which would bring forth humanity's true potential at some point in the future. Where the Eternals took up residence on the mountaintops and eventually space itself, the Deviants took up residence underground. Finding their unstable genes brought forth unstable mutations, Deviant society was a veritable hodgepodge of distrust and anger. Lacking emotions of compassion and love, the Deviants saw themselves outpacing baseline humans in their evolutionary race, only ever finding defeat in their conflicts against the Eternals. Turning their sights to the surface world, by 20,000 BC, the Deviants had created settlements which in turn became kingdoms, sprawling out from their capital city of Lemuria. Serving as a major trading hub for the Deviants themselves as well as the Eternals and those human groups who'd not been press-ganged into servitude, Atlantis rose as a literal neutral territory, devoid of conflict, and something akin to a safe haven. Visiting the Earth a second time with the intention of observing their experiments, the Celestials were angered to find that humanity had been subjugated by the Deviants, while the Eternals sat without care. Seeing themselves as conquerors and beyond reproach, where the Deviants once viewed the Celestials as their makers, they now viewed them as usurpers attempting to seize control of their kingdoms. Launching an attack against the godly beings, in 18,000 BC, the Deviants were deemed failures by Ereshkigal, who judged against them. Initiating the Great Cataclysm, Ereshkigal and the Celestial host watched as the Deviants were pushed to the brink of extinction, their human slaves escaping on rafts or else sunk with Atlantis, and most of the Eternals fleeing Earth. With the Earth left to begin anew, what remained of the Deviants relegated themselves to the subterranean realm, building their armies in preparation for the next Celestial's visit, while the remaining Eternals opened their doors to surviving humans. Thus, humanity went forth and began to multiply, spreading itself to all four corners of the world, all while blissfully unaware that in due time, their latent genes would activate, and mutant kind would begin to rise. While humanity enjoyed its new world, Selene was coming to power. Born in 17,000 BC, a full 1,000 years after the Great Cataclysm, Selene stood as the first external. Possessing the mutant ability to absorb the life force of those around her, unlike future mutations which would activate in response to puberty or heightened levels of stress, Selene was born with her powers, slowly siphoning off the life energies of her mother, who died during childbirth. Moving to a small area off the coast of Spain, stories of this place involve pain, suffering, and the vanishing of those who travel too closely. Given a wide berth by sailors and travelers, those who witnessed the denizens of this place would call them angels or demons. In reality, the island of demons contained a tear in space-time which allowed access to a pocket dimension. Within it resided the Neophim and the Chearaphim, mutants who appeared both demonic and angelic. Confined to this space following a holy war between the two groups, the Neophim and Chearaphim would inspire tales of an ancient battle between good and evil, spanning into the heavens and beyond. By 5000 BC, the expansion of humanity and its latent mutant genes was beginning to increase. Born to the clan Akaba in Egypt's Valley of Kings, as a byproduct of its primitive beliefs, Insaba Nur's tribe considered his physical appearance to be a bad omen. Cast aside to die in the desert, Nur was saved by Baal and his nomadic sandstormers. Raised with the tribe's ideologies, Nur developed an extremist social Darwinist belief that only the strong deserve to survive. Proving his might through ritualistic combat, Nur rose among the ranks of the Sandstormers, becoming one of its most feared and capable warriors. Completing his rite of passage and being viewed as a man by the tribe, Nur was taken by Baal, who revealed his destiny. Learning that Nur would eventually rise to become one of Earth's most powerful mutants, adopt the moniker Apocalypse, and seize the world, Baal revealed that this prophecy was his reason for adopting Nur instead of leaving him to his fate in the desert. However, after learning of Nur's existence, Cain the Conqueror, a time-displaced villain turned pharaoh, had sought to use Nur as a means of securing his own legacy. Thus, while Nur and Baal were continuing their journey, the armies of Cain slaughtered the Sandstormers and initiated a cave-in, leading Cain to believe that Nur had been killed. Swearing an oath of vengeance against Cain following the death of Baal, Nur made his way to Egypt's slave pens and found himself the objects of Nefri's desires. As the sister of Ozymandias, Nefri was lusted after by many men, none of whom looked to incur the wrath of Cain's top general. However, for Nur, this was as much love as it was access. To court Nefri would grant him an audience with Cain and the revenge he so desired, but when he revealed his true appearance, Nefri was appalled and fled fearing his disfigurements. Where Nur saw his rise to power coming through great battles or conquests, in reality, his powers arose through heartbreak. Lashing out and destroying the armies of Egypt, Cain fled to the future while Nur donned the mantle of Apocalypse, transformed Ozymandias into his scribe, and made preparations for global domination.